Welcome back to Indianomics. We have been speaking with Mr. S. Mundra, the Deputy Governor who is in charge of banking supervision. Now let me come to something on which everyone has a demand. Oversight Committee.
Yeah.
Are you looking first of all at giving it more legitimacy or legality and expanding its mandate?
See, I think the first relevant point is even the number of oversight committee. As you know, as of today, one oversight committee is functioning, and what we are discussing, if everything is put together, I think it would need more than one oversight committee if this is to be handled. So that is something which I think which has been discussed.
Is that coming?
So I think I think yes. So all of these you can take it as something which have been discussed, which is work in progress, but a institutional view or a common view, combined view is yet to emerge. The second point you talked about, the legal empowerment. Of course, I think even within the existing banking regulation and RBI Act, there are enough empowerment available for RBI to give this kind of instruction. But I think a greater clarity can always be beneficial. And why I am telling this, because from the time these acts were enacted and subsequent to that, and more particularly in recent past, a number of acronyms which has been given in the financial sector, they are something which were not known or not even understood. So, you write an act in the context of the prevailing situation at point of time. So when so much has happened, I think it would be meaningful if even those provisions which are already existing are made a little bit more explicit. I think it serves two purposes. One is, of course, the clarity in the act, but also I think it brings a lot of assurances on the side of everyone who will be involved in this entire process. So that was something which we have been we have been suggesting, and I think government has also listened to us on that.
Okay, so we should expect that any increase of the oversight committee's number and empowerment will await legislative amendments of the acts?
I think that is something which probably because these are some of the technical and legal niceties, and I'm not qualified to really make an authoritative comment whether what kind of process it needs to go. Only thing I know that if there is a if both the parties are convinced, then I think it will be for the government to find an appropriate way to give it a shape.
Okay, but pending any legislative changes, RBI is not looking at doing anything about oversight committees?
See, if you look from practical way, it doesn't make sense. You start, you take a view, okay, we are starting this journey and we expect to reach there in a final solution, and midway you say, I will take a right turn and then come from that route again. So you start going to Churchgate and say, no, I'll come via the CST. It doesn't make a... I think it makes sense to if something is there, to stick to that.
I'm sorry, but again I have to ask you that for this legislative change, is there some timeline?
That timeline, obviously, you will have to travel to Delhi. No, I cannot. That timeline
I agree,
cannot
but
be.
Sir, you are into these discussions, so should we at least expect it?
No,
legislative things usually take time, and that is precious time lost in resolution of assets. There is a time value for that money.
No, I know, but I think there had been several instances in the past when there is a complete, agreement and acceptance of the government side. These processes can also run pretty fast.
Okay. Well, let me come to the issue of haircuts. Will the government or the RBI suggest something like a formula? Because that word formula does the rounds in conversation.
I think you are experienced enough to know. Rather, if I can ask you a counter question, that let us exchange the chair, and I ask you the same question. Do you think any such formula is possible?
I want you to bash up the idea. That's why I'm asking you.
What I'm trying to say, you can define a process, and all the efforts had been to define a process. You see, this number one, you are talking about variety of sectors. Within variety of sectors, you are talking about variety of companies, variety of equity and debt structure, the variety of products. So let me be very clear. No such omnibus formula is really possible. But yes, processes can be well defined, and you must have seen that all the efforts are directed in defining the process. So if there is a mechanism of JLF, there is a requirement of majority, there is a requirement of techno-economic feasibility to be done, then this is to be further weighted at the level of oversight committee. If need be, oversight committee can be assisted by the credit rating agencies. If you are not comfortable with one credit rating agency, you can make it two credit rating agencies. So all those processes can be defined. And I think any proposal, once it goes through a regulatory broad structure, within that a very well defined process, then finally what emerges, I would tend to believe that it should be something quite realistic and sustainable.
Okay. So should we expect the credit rating agencies also to be included in the process?
I think that is what the thought is, and it should only strengthen the process. So yes.
Okay. At least that when should we expect in the form of rules? No, I mean, sir, resolutions are being held back in anticipation that something may come.
See, it is like putting a vehicle on the road and then commence the journey. Now you are asking me when the steering wheel will start traveling and other part will, will start moving. These are all interlinked components. I think even on a serious note, it is really now we are past that stage that we should again try to look at the issue in bits and pieces and components. It's better to have a whole mechanism with proper interlinkage in place and then put it in place.
Okay. So the Oversight Committee repeatedly apparently tells the bankers that S4A, at least the process is very clear, so we can compare. If you swerve outside it, we cannot vet the process. So, how would you answer that? Therefore, is an omnibus process coming?
No. I mean to say, what will happen, as we have discussed S4A, as it is now, even suppose there is and finally it is agreed that there can be a slightly revised version or modified version of S4A, and all those other schemes which, I was mentioning, then to my mind, everything could be a input for OC to look into.
Okay.
But that will again, enhance their universe substantially, even with the present universe, and which would again mean that there need to be, more hands and brains working on that.
But in all this, retained profits will fall because you have to provide more. So capital again becomes an issue. What are the discussions with the government on capital? Are they going to provide more, or is there a serious thought about recapitalization bonds?
See, whichever way you look at it, ultimately all it boils down to the requirement of capital, which is not negotiable. And see. And I think government is quite clear. There had been a lot of discussions, a lot of data sharing on this, and you must have seen that Finance Minister had also, not once but several times he has mentioned that if there is a need, government would provide the capital. But what we have to understand that only government providing the capital is not the only thing. Capital has to come, that is very clear, but capital can come from several sides. And to my mind, rather than always just focusing that government has to put a lot of money, would not be the right thing to do. So capital, see, on very fundamental level, there are two ways. Either capital can be augmented or capital can be conserved. Now, individual institutions first have to take that view, that how much they can expect the augmentation capital and how much they can look into their business to conserve the capital. Once that is done, for augmentation, yes, the majority owner has to provide, other owners can provide, you can dispose of your non-core assets, you can try to exit from some of the business lines. So I think each bank will have to look at all the possibilities and then accordingly decide.
But recap bonds are not discussed?
At least I am not aware of any such discussion if they have taken place.
Now the other way in which the government has, or even in fact the Reserve Bank in the prompt and corrective action says, for the weakest of banks you will recommend even amalgamation. But is there an amalgamator, someone who can accept an IOB?
If you look at the PCA framework, there are two parts of it. One is the mandatory action and other are the discretionary action. Some of these are discretionary action. If it is put there, it means not necessarily that this is the only thing which is to be done, but yes, it is something which is very much on the card. So I think these things will depend on very individual cases and how the circumstances do take place. There had been instances of amalgamation in Indian banking system in the past. It's not that it is for the first time. And even otherwise, on a more general and philosophical level, we are talking about the consolidation in the industry. So, I think within that broad framework, all the possibilities should be taken as being available and not discarded.
Okay, but should we expect consolidation anytime soon? Say, in this year, something like that?
I think you demand timelines for everything. Right now one consolidation is going on.
Yes.
You know. And I think you have also witnessed that this consolidation, coming into shape, it takes its own course of time. And that too where it was a case which was very different. It was a kind of half consolidated entries to be fully consolidated. So I think we have to be realistic in that perspective. But what is important is to decide a broad framework, firm up the mind. Once you do that, then other things are a matter of detail, which can take care of themselves.
Mr. Mundra, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for your patience.
Pleasure for me also, as always.